Okay, here we're going to do a number of examples using special factoring techniques. So the first is called factoring a difference of squares. So x squared minus y squared, that binomial, factors to x plus y times x minus y. Now what's important here is that the square root of x squared is x, that's what goes here, and the square root of y squared is y, which is what goes here. Okay, so let's look at an example. Factor 25x squared minus 49y squared. Both the first and the second terms are both perfect squares, and there's a minus sign in between. So all we need to do is figure out the square root of 25x squared, so that's 5x, and the square root of 49y squared, that's 7y. So this factors to 5x plus 7y times 5x minus 7y. And you can check it out, it would work fine. Okay, the second of three special factoring techniques, x squared plus 2 times x times y plus y squared, that's called a perfect square trinomial. Notice the first term and the last term are both perfect squares, and the middle term is 2 times the square root of the first term times the square root of the second term, because square root of x squared is x and the square root of y squared is y. So that's where we're getting those x and those y from. Now that factors to x plus y quantity squared. Now the x and the y inside the parentheses, these ones, are the square roots of these terms. And then this sign, if you just want to learn a trick that goes with this sign determines the sign in the middle term here. Okay, now the same way, x squared minus 2xy plus y squared factors to x minus y quantity squared. Okay, let's look at an example here. You just want to double check to make sure it is a perfect square trinomial. Alright, first of all, the first and the last terms are both positive and perfect squares. So the first thing I always do is I find the square root of those. Then I double check that 2 times the square root of the first times the square root of the last. So 7 times, we'll do 7 times 5 first, 35 times 2, that's 70. That in fact is the middle term, which it is this time. If it's not, we're not going to be able to factor using this technique. But this time it is. So now, this is a perfect square trinomial. So it's going to be one binomial squared. And it's 7a plus, because of the sign right here, 5b. So the answer is 7a plus 5b quantity squared. Now this is 7a plus 5b times 7a plus 5b. So I'll just show you a way you can check this. You could FOIL it out. So we get 7a times 7a, that's 49a squared. So 49a squared. Let's fix that up for you a little bit. Make it look a little nicer. So 49a squared. Now the outer, so plus 35ab plus, now the inner, 35ab. So that's why it's 2 times, because there's 2 of them. See that? And then plus 25b squared. So we get 49a squared plus 70ab plus 25b squared. So it checks. So we got the right answer. Okay, let's do another one. 36x squared minus 120x plus 100. So actually, the very first thing we should do is factor out the greatest common factor on this one. So let's factor out a 4, it looks like. So we'll get 4, and then 9x squared minus, and that's going to be a 30x, and then plus 25. Okay, now we're going to keep bringing down the 4, but let's focus on now this inner one. Let's just see. So I'm talking about this right here. Looks like that might be a perfect square trinomial as well, because the first and the last terms are both perfect squares. Let's just double check. So now square root of 9x squared, that's 3x. Square root of 25, that's 5. 2 times 3x times 5, that's 30x. Yep, the middle term is correct, so that means it is a perfect square trinomial. So this 9x squared minus 30x plus 25 will turn into a binomial squared, and it's 3x minus 5. We're using these that we just found, 3x and 5. And then the sign in the sign of the second term tells us whether it's plus or minus in the middle. Okay. All right, and the last special factoring technique is called sum and difference of cubes. It's a little trickier. You're going to have to memorize this, but x cubed plus y cubed equals x plus y quantity times x squared minus xy plus y squared. Now the cube root of x cubed is x, and the cube root of y cubed is y. So that's where this x and this y comes from. Same thing here with those x, y's. And then the x squared is just x squared. Now one thing that you can help remember this is this SOAP, SOAP. So when you split it up into two polynomials, the x plus y, this sign right here, this plus, is the same as the original sign. Now you got to remember xy and then x squared xy y squared, so you got to remember that. But at least the signs, you could figure these out using this acronym SOAP. This is opposite the original sign, and then the last sign is always positive. That's what the AP stands for, always positive. So look at the pattern is exactly the same. So the next one, x cubed minus y cubed. X minus y, same sign. X squared plus, opposite sign, right? XY plus y squared, always positive on the last one. Okay, so you're just going to have to memorize that pattern. Okay, let's look at an example. Factor x cubed plus 64. So we need to figure out what the cube root of x cubed is. That's x. And the cube root of 64, you want to think what number multiplied by itself 3 times produces 64. That's 4. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to use the x and the 4 now. So x plus 4, same sign, same. Now, a new parentheses. So it's this x that we're using. So x and then squared. Now we need an opposite sign. X times 4. So that's like the x and the y in the pattern, right? And then always positive. That's the 4 that gets squared at the end there. Clean it up a little bit. X plus 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. And this second trinomial that you get, the second polynomial, is not a perfect square trinomial. It would have to be a minus 8x in the middle in order for that to happen. So you never get a perfect square trinomial. So we're going to stop factoring right here. And lastly, last example, factor 125a cubed minus 8b cubed. Well, let's see if we have a difference of cubes. So the cube root of 125a cubed is 5a. The cube root of 8b cubed is 2b. Well, let's see, 5a times 5a times 5a, that would be 125a cubed. 2b times 2b times 2b, that would be 8b cubed. So now we're going to be using these as our x and our y's, following the pattern that we learned for factoring a difference of cubes. So now we want same sign. So 5a minus 2b. The sign of the original is negative. Now when you do this, you're going to want to do this in a couple steps. You're going to take that 5a and then square it. Now you want the opposite sign, so plus. And then you do 5a times 2b. And now the third is always positive, and you're going to be squaring the 2b. So let's clean this up a bit. So it becomes 5a minus 2b. So 5a squared is actually 25a squared plus 10ab in the middle. and then 2b quantity squared is actually 4b squared. Okay, and again, that second trinomial, that will not factor anymore.